Hello, and welcome to Words from Yo Mama. I'm your host, Simone. If you're a mom or maybe considering being a mom and you want some encouragement along the way, then this podcast is for you. On this podcast, I interview moms from every walk of life as they share their experiences. So thanks for listening. This will be one of the last recordings for a little while, and I thought, why not go out with a bang? This mama is the one and only Valerie Staten, the First Lady of my fantastic church, Living Hope First United Pentecostal Church. We have not only one, but 3 episodes. There's going to be the part 1 and part 2, and then a bonus session that is unbeknownst to her. It's just her sharing some things, but we got outside of the 2-hour window because I had some technical difficulties. So just enjoy these last words of wisdoms, and hopefully next year something new will be birthed and we will have tons more moms that I've interviewed, recorded, and edited for you guys. I just have limited capacity right now, just trying to navigate through life. So thank you all for your support, your participation over the years. I've appreciated it. And I look forward to all the support in the future and all the interviews from all the other mamas. Love y'all. So that kind of drives us to our next question. How do you find balance between taking care of yourself and being a mom? Like, where do you place your priorities? How does that all fit on one plate?
Well, I think I mentioned seasons before, and when my girls were younger, it looked a lot different than what it does now. Um, Back when my girls were younger and needed constant care and I needed to be very hands-on, and I didn't prioritize as much my self-care, which I kind of paid for later um, in life, with my health issues that I had, which would be another podcast. um, but now in the season that I'm in, where they're grown and they kind of do their own thing. Now, obviously, Dakota is still at home and she's 15 and still, I'm pretty hands-on there. We're going to homeschool and all that stuff. So, but one thing that has changed one habit that I have put into place that has completely changed it for me and been able to help me really balance out my time, would be waking up earlier. And in order to wake up earlier, I got to go to bed earlier. So I have put really firm boundaries around my bedtime and my wake up time. And that has helped so much because I know if I can get up an hour earlier than everybody else, that gives me a whole hour, sometimes an hour and a half of doing what I need to do. I get up, I get my coffee, my water, I drink my coffee, drink my water, I get my Bible out, do my devotion, and then get my workout in. And that to me is what prepares me for my day on a spiritual level, on a mental level, on a physical level. And yeah, it's a sacrifice because I'm waking up earlier and I would really love to sleep in. That would be great. But I know the benefit of getting up an hour earlier than everyone else, or an hour and a half, whatever it is. Some days it's an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. But then again, that goes back to I have to set very firm boundaries around my bedtime. Like, I'm in bed most nights, I'm trying at least to be in bed by 9 o'clock. And people are like, man, that's so early. Well, I know in order to function good the next day, I've got to get a good 8 hours of sleep,
Right.
which females need 8 to 10. They need more sleep than men need. And if guys don't like it, they can take that up with the Lord. But but the female body, because it is so very complex, needs that sleep in order to be able to function at an optimal level that next day with mental stresses, physical stresses, the things that come along. So I've had to be very disciplined in that. And that's something that I've just implemented in the last 6 months or so, is that early wake up time, which means an earlier bedtime. I implement the 3-2-1 method, which you're a client of mine. I may have mentioned this to you, but 3 hours before bedtime, I don't eat. I stop eating because you can't, falling asleep on a full stomach is just, you feel gross. It's hard
Yeah.
to get comfortable. So 3 hours before bed, I don't eat. 2 hours, I don't drink anything. That way I'm not getting up throughout the evening and, having to go potty. And then 1 hour before bedtime, I turn off all the screens. So there's just something that I've implemented that has really helped me to be able to balance my self-care as well as taking care of, it's not so as much taking care of my kids now, but it's, just church stuff, my business, house stuff, taking care of the house, making dinner, doing all those things. It has really helped me to be able to balance that better and just feel better. There's something about when you get up early in the morning and you accomplish something
Right.
right off the bat, like even if it's a 20-minute workout, it sets you up for your day to feel like, you know what, I started my day out doing something good for myself.
Yeah.
And that just sets you up for the day. It gives you a positive mental state to where you're like, okay, I did something hard, especially if it is a workout that you're talking about. I did something really hard today, so I can take on the rest of the day, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of one thing that I've really implemented in this season of my life, and it has really changed things for me. It's helped me to really balance out and feel like, okay, I can do this.
I love that. I love that discipline is the small win that you take for your self-care and prioritizing and self-improvement because I don't know that any other mother or any other person would pick discipline. Like this is only just a sister Satan question. Like I answer, I love it so much. But seriously, it's so important to we talked about small wins.
Yeah.
You've just accomplished three small wins. You've gotten your spiritual time in, you've gotten your
Yep.
time with yourself, and you've gotten your like physical self-improvement on. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's a great I was looking forward to your answer. I wasn't expecting that one, but that's incredible. It's great. I wouldn't
Well,
expect anything else, so honestly. I love it.
I'm glad I didn't disappoint you.
It's good. Like it's so good because again, like you said, you accomplished that. So you can look at your productivity for the day and be like, oh, what did I do? I know that I prayed. I know that I talked to the Lord. I
Yeah.
well, pray and talk to the Lord. I know that I
Right.
read my Bible. I knew that I worked out. Like I did these three things for myself.
Yeah.
If I didn't do anything else, I accomplished these three things for myself.
Yeah.
And boundaries, everything
Yeah.
comes back to boundaries.
Yeah.
That's
One
awesome.
thing I would tell my girls is when they were in teenage life, when they were all teenagers, is do something every single day for these three areas of your life. Well, actually four: your spiritual health, your mental health, your physical health, and your educational level. So that means do something every day to draw you closer to the Lord, whether it's reading a 5-minute devotional, praying a little bit more than you prayed yesterday, whatever it looks like. Do something that's going to increase and improve your spiritual health, something that's going to increase and improve your physical health. Go for a walk, do a workout. Eat healthy. Don't eat any sugar that day, whatever the case may be. Do something, and then something educational. Read a book, read it, read an article.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's listen to a podcast that increases your education in something. Do something to improve yourself, and that can kind of go along with mentally, is just to improve your education and knowledge, grow in your knowledge on something today. And then your mental health, do something positive for your mental health.
Yeah.
Going for a walk accomplishes three of those things. If you go for a walk, it's going to improve your physical health and your mental health. And if you listen to a podcast while you're walking, there you go. You've knocked three of those out. But, that's a little something that I would tell the girls, especially as they were teenagers going through, trying to figure out life.
I love that. I love that so much. And not only do you speak it, you model it for them, and it makes it so much easier because it's easy for you to be like, yeah, you need to do these four things. And then
Yeah,
they're like, okay, well, I don't see you doing it.
right.
So you look fine. Why do I have to
Yeah,
prioritize it?
yeah.
So I appreciate that. Let's talk about some qualities in your kids. We've already kind of pulled these out, I feel like, but let's just kind of hone in a little bit. You don't have to list a specific number, but what are some qualities or traits that you admire in your children?
Um, well, do you want me to do individually?
Sure, if that's easier for you,
Qualities.
or like if there's
They're
just
all so different. They're all so different. Like, it's so funny to me that all four of my girls came from the same two people because they're all so even looks. Now, Riley and Dakota look a lot alike, but you know, when they were younger, people were like, "Man, they look so different. They don't even look like sisters." Um, but more than that, even just personality types, they're just so different. So, I think qualities that I see, we'll start with Dakota. She's the youngest. She is passionate. She has passion. The girl, when she has something in her mind and her focus, she is zeroed in on it, laser focus on that thing. She's been that way her whole life. When she would have a friend, she would meet a new friend, literally I would tell the parent of that friend and I would say, look, she's going to come across as a stalker, but she just really loves her friend. So I apologize in advance, but she really loves her friends, but she's just passionate. And she still is. She's very much a people person and loves people. She loves to have friends. And that's it. The girls joke around with me. They're like, Mom, you don't even have friends, or like you don't even want friends. I'm like, I do want friends. It's like I have so much going on. Having friends is an investment that I'm
yeah.
like, I just sometimes don't have. I think I'm probably a really terrible friend, most likely, but I do have friends. I've got a few friends that love me in spite of me, so I'm thankful for them. But Dakota is just, she's very friendly, she's very passionate. Riley is just, she's driven. She's the same, kind of the same. When she wants something, you're not changing her mind. And I learned this even more so with her wedding planning. It was kind of funny. There were times I was like, do you think we could, are you sure you want to do that? And she was like, yep. No, I mean, there was no discussion. Like, and my husband and I would kind of laugh about it later. He'd be like, you're not going to change your mind. Like, it's not happening. I'm like, all right, well, let's just do it. But she's sweet. She's just always has a smile on her face. She's very positive. Very rarely, has she been down like having mental breakdowns. She's very upbeat and very positive, and I'm thankful for that. Um, Cameron is the girl's incredible. She's an incredible speaker. She's a teacher. She loves people. She's incredible. Like I tell her all the time, I wish so bad I had your qualities at your age because I mean, it's just incredible. She's a great teacher and speaker. I could listen to her teach. She's funny. Like when she teaches, she just grabs people's attention and keeps them engaged because she's funny. She always has a great story, just she's just an incredible minister, but also just an incredible human.
Yeah.
And Brooke, she's just got an anointing of worship on her. Um, she's probably one of my favorite worship leaders. Just she's able to really feel after the Holy Ghost, and her voice. I love her voice. It's got that raspy kind of a soulful voice. I don't know how to explain it, but I love, she's just, I'm so grateful because my girls have such amazing talents and abilities that I don't have. And one thing I've prayed is, God, let my kids be far greater than I've ever been. Let them go further and be elevated further than I've ever been. And I'm seeing God do that. And He's just given them favor. Not that they're perfect, they're not perfect, but who is, right?
Right.
But they have learned some lessons the hard way. They've walked through a lot of challenges and they've stayed faithful to the Lord. And I'm thankful for that. That's probably the biggest thing is their faithfulness to the things of God. Even though they faced challenges growing up in their teenage life, they didn't walk away from God and they remained faithful. And that I will forever be grateful for.
Amen. That was beautiful. I feel like Cameron is so much your twin, like in so many ways. Like not only physically, like there's so many times where she's just sitting up there and I'm like, oh, I love that dress. Sister Satan looks so beautiful. And it's Cameron. But even in her teaching, like I'll go up there and there's a moment where she teaches every time where she just goes in. And I could swear if I closed my eyes, it sounds just like you. And I'm like, oh, it's Cameron. It's not even like it's you. I thought it was you, but it's totally Cameron. And
That's
even
funny.
singing, exhorting, worshiping, you've exhorted and worship, and I swear, like I close my eyes when Brooke's singing, and she'll be exhorting, and I'm like, is that Sister Satan? It's not. It's clearly Brooke. It's clearly Brooke. But it's just cool to see like different qualities that you've pointed out in each of your kids while all being housed like both equally in you and your husband. Like the teaching, the ability to teach. You're an incredible teacher and speaker. Your husband's an incredible teacher and speaker. You guys both are incredible singers. Like, I can't wait till you guys drop an EP and y'all are like,
Yeah, you'll be waiting a while. I'm not the singer, that's for sure.
it's
I will
no,
do
y'all
it if
are.
I have to, but that is not that's not my forte.
I enjoy Christmas so much because you guys sing together. It's
Oh,
just
that's
so, it
funny.
just blesses my soul.
I know. Well, while you look forward to it, I dread it. I'm like, oh, Christmas is coming. I know they're gonna ask us to sing.
I love it. I love it. So, thanks for sharing those qualities and traits. That's amazing. Let's find the next question here. This one, I feel like I know the answer to this one, but
Okay.
let's hear what you have to say. Share with us a daily routine or special time that you treasure with your children.
The evenings, our evenings, when we don't have anything going on. Um, Especially here lately, we've really made that a priority is our family time in the evening. With Dakota, I homeschooled her up until last year. Last year was her freshman year of high school, and she went to a Christian school here full time. And it was difficult for me. I would tell her when she would come home, I missed you today. We are going back to homeschooling this next year, not just because I missed her, but anyway. But I treasured, I guess I could say homeschooling my girls, honestly, if I go back a few years. It was a decision that we made that I was very prayerful about. Like, I never thought I would homeschool my kids. But then God kind of started dealing with me about it. I did research for about 6 months before I pulled the trigger on it. But I am so grateful that I did. It gave me time with them. Um, I didn't just have the evenings with them and the weekends. It wasn't like a custody thing. It was, I get my kids all the time, you know? One of the things I dislike, this is just me personally, I dislike that my kids would be at school for 8 hours a day and then come home with 2 hours of homework. Um, it was I did not like it at
Yeah.
all. And that was a big driver on why we did decide to homeschool. There were other factors as well, but that was one of them. Even this past year with Dakota in the school she was at, when the weather started getting nicer, it literally killed me to take her to school when it was like 65 degrees outside and sunny and beautiful, and she was going to be inside that school sitting in a classroom for 8 hours.
Yep.
Killed me, literally killed me. So I treasure that time I had with them, to where we would do schoolwork. You know, we're doing math, we're doing grammar, we're doing all the things, but we're done with school around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we just have time to have fun, play outside, do the things that God created these little kids to do, instead of being cooped up in a classroom all day. I tell people all the time, one thing I will be able to say at the end of my life is I won't be able to say I regret not spending more time with my kids. I won't say that,
Yeah.
because I had every day with them. Now, we didn't start homeschooling until Brooke was in seventh grade, I think, when we started. So I didn't homeschool all of them their whole life. Dakota, we have, obviously, except for this past year, but that's probably the biggest thing that I treasure, is that decision to homeschool our girls. It was hard. There were days when I was like, okay, I'm sending you back. Like, I don't want to do this. There were lots of tears, there was crying, it wasn't picture perfect. But I don't regret not one thing
Yeah.
with homeschooling them.
Because some things are caught and other things are taught. And doing life with your kids is like the best thing that you can do. I
Yeah.
I personally don't learn the best in school atmospheres. I'm so grateful to God that I made it through college, because it was so difficult for me to sit down behind a computer and
Yeah.
learn that way, like one specific way. You know
Yeah.
your kid, you know
Yep.
what kind of can trigger a certain thought or them to think a certain pattern.
Yeah.
So teaching in an environment where you're outside versus being inside, where
Yeah.
they're stimulated differently doing math, and or they need to focus, so they need to go downstairs and focus and
Right.
read.
Right.
Those things, those little teeny things are super important.
Well, and learning is not cookie cutter. Like you said, people learn different ways, and that was one of the biggest things that I learned that first couple years of homeschooling, is my kids don't learn the same. I could put Cameron in front of a computer, a computerized, program for her school, and she would be fine. Brooke, she needs hands-on. For whatever reason, when she would get on the computer, it was not working. It was not computing. So, play on words there, um, but so I would end up having to print out all of her work, and then if she had it in a book, she was fine. She understood it. It was crazy. But if you take the approach that every kid learns the same, and so you sit them behind, all 35 of them in your class, behind a desk, and the teacher is up there lecturing and writing on the whiteboard, you're going to lose some kids, because that's just not how they learn. And so those first few years of homeschooling, I was learning. We changed curriculum several times because I had to figure out, okay, Brooke is going to learn better this way with this program. Cameron will learn this way. Riley does fine with this. Dakota does this. So I could customize their learning experience.
Yeah.
And you don't get that in a school setting. You just have to try to figure it out. And then, you get tested, and then when you fail the test, they're like, "Well, you failed the test because you don't know." No, it's because we didn't teach them in a way that works for them, that computes with their brain. I'm not a child psychologist, but I am a child of four. I mean, I am a mother of four children that I've homeschooled, and I would go toe to toe with anybody any day on this discussion, because it's not cookie cutter. It's not Teaching is not cookie cutter.
No,
And
your environment matters for sure.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, there were times when okay, math obviously is going to take a little more concentration and focus. So we're going to change our environment. We're going to go downstairs where it's a little more quiet and a little more secluded. And we're going to, focus in on this for an hour. And then when we're done, you get to go outside.
Right.
Like we're
You
going to
can
go.
chunk it off. You don't have to sit there. You're not required to sit there for 2 hours and take a test. You can
Right.
break it up. You can do 30 minutes here. You can do 30
Yeah.
minutes there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know homeschool's not for everybody. And at one point, I didn't think it was for us, but I'm telling you, I do not regret it one tiny bit.
That's awesome. That's encouraging for other moms out there that maybe don't feel qualified or don't
Yeah.
feel like they can teach homeschool. Like you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many resources now that you don't have to, because I thought, well, there's no way I can do it because I'm not a teacher. I didn't go to college to be a teacher. I can't homeschool my kids. There's so many homeschool resources out there nowadays that you do not, I mean, there's some that you don't even have to do anything as a parent, but keep records of stuff. Like it's just, there's so many options, so many options.
Nice. That's awesome. I thought for sure you were going to talk about your wonderful Disney dinners.
Oh, I can talk about that.
That was probably the best thing that came out of 2020. At least for me, like I love watching y'all's family dinners on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was something we started during quarantine days, during COVID. We would do our Disney themed dinners. So we would pick a movie, a Disney movie. So for instance, we would do Lilo and Stitch. So for dinner, we're doing a Hawaiian theme. So we're having, I can't remember, pineapple chicken or something, some kind of a Hawaiian dish. The table is decorated with a Hawaiian theme. The girls would go all out and make it look like we're, in Hawaii. We'd all wear Hawaiian shirts or the leis, and then we would listen to the soundtrack from Lilo and Stitch while we ate our dinner. And then after dinner, we would watch the movie together. And so we've done that several times, and it's just become something that we do. We haven't done it in a little while, just life has been busy, but definitely one of our favorite things to do. We're like in our family group chat every now and then, like, okay, Disney night, you guys, what are we going to do? So we've done Mulan and we made homemade Chinese takeout. My husband and I had gone to, there's a place locally called A Time to Cook, and it's a cooking class that you can take. And we went there one time and learned how to do some different Chinese takeout um, food items. And so we implemented that and we did Chinese food. The table was decorated. We got some bonsai plants and put them in the middle to, as a centerpiece. We got chopsticks, listened to Mulan music, and then afterwards watched Mulan. So we've done, we did a Lady and the Tramp where we did spaghetti. We've done, I'm trying to think what
I
else
think
we've
y'all
done.
did Ratatouille once.
Yes, we did. We've done Ratatouille. Um, I know we've done others, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's one of our favorite things that we do together.
love that. Love that. So, share with us some things maybe that your mom has taught you that you, or even things that she's inspired you to teach your kids or has inspired your parenting style.
I think growing up, she always had dinner on the table. It seems simple. Um, but she did work a job most of the time that I was growing up, and she would still come home and manage to get dinner on the table, and dinner was a priority that we're all going to sit down and eat dinner together. And that was something both of my parents were, that's something we're going to do. Now, it didn't happen every single night of my life, obviously, but happened more than it didn't. So it was a priority. And so that's something that I cherish is we're not going to all go in separate rooms and eat our dinner. We're not eating on TV trays in front of the TV. We're going to sit around the table and we're going to talk. We're going to eat and we're going to talk about our day. and just have conversation. And that's something that I cherished as a child, as a, growing up. And so that's something that I think has kind of just inspired me to make sure it happens in my home.
I can't tell you how people feel like it's underrated, or you said it was something small, but it's totally not. We've moved around. My family personally has moved around a couple times, and in us moving, we downsized, and in
Mm,
us downsizing, we lost our dining room table. And for those years that we didn't have that dining room table, our relationships have changed dramatically.
yeah,
And going to other people's houses and sitting down and eating dinner with them. Like,
yeah,
it's so refreshing to come to a
yes,
dinner table, sit with your family, and talk about your day. Like, you don't even have to talk
yeah,
about your day. You just
yeah,
talk about dinner. Like,
yeah. I know. It's just that human interaction.
yeah,
It's And especially the day we live in now, where everything is social media and everybody's on their phones constantly, to have that human interaction with the people you're closest to, it's refreshing to your spirit, you know? And, there's times that I tell my family, we're not talking business, we're not talking about negative things. We're going to just, what happened today that was funny? What is something that happened today that was crazy? We're not going to sit here and complain. We're not going to talk about all the negative things, but make that dinner experience an experience to where everybody walks away from that. Man, that was a good meal, but it was a really good conversation. It
yeah,
was a good time talking with my family.
yeah,
And that's important. It's so important. Like you said, when you don't have that, you notice how important it is.
yeah. It's so good. So share with us. You've talked a lot about this already, some boundaries. So share moments where you've had to set boundaries and the positive effect to setting those boundaries as a parent.
You mean setting boundaries for the girls, for my kids,
Yeah.
or
Like it
okay.
could be we're not participating in extracurricular activities, or it could be we're not going to this place, or
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously with us homeschooling, we didn't have to deal with a lot of the, okay, you're not going to go do this because there's church on Wednesday night, you
right.
know. We didn't have to deal with that. I did have to deal with that some this past year with Dakota. She was in drama class and they did a play, and it was crazy to me that this Christian school would have rehearsals on Wednesday nights. I'm like, okay, folks, I know we don't live in the Bible Belt, but I mean, most people, or at least a lot of people, I would think, are going to church
Midweek
on Wednesday
service.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was super frustrating because I'm like, you're gonna have to tell your teacher you're not gonna be there. Like, you're gonna have to miss that, or you're gonna have to leave early. There were several nights that she had to leave a practice for their play early so she could be at church on Wednesday night. And that was a non-negotiable. It always has been that you're not gonna be involved in stuff where you're gonna miss church. We're not gonna do it. Now, obviously, vacations and things like that, but if you're in town, you're gonna be in church. So that was, that's a boundary that we've put there that has paid off. They recognize the benefit of faithfulness,
Yeah.
the benefit of consistency, of being where you need to be all the time. So that was something, again, when the girls were younger, the older ones were younger, we didn't have to worry about that because they were never in sports. They never were involved in any kind of school activities because we obviously homeschooled. So, um, I think, and I don't know who all your listeners are, but one thing we said is you're not going to be involved in any kind of prom. You're not going to go to any kind of school, dances. Even when they were in middle school, when Brooke was in middle school, they would have school dances and all that. We're not going to participate in that. Um, and those are just some boundaries that we put up because we want them to learn that having boundaries is a good thing. And there's just some things we're not going to participate in. We're not going to condemn people that do, but we're just not going to participate in them.
Right.
Dakota this past year, there was a homecoming dance. And yeah, it's a Christian school, but anyway, it's there's still things that take place that we're just not going to be a part of. And we had to have that conversation with her because all her friends are like, "Are you coming? Are you going to come to homecoming? And did you get your dress for homecoming?" I'm like, "Look, you're not going to be out there shaking what your mama gave you, we're not going to participate in that. So what's the point in going if you're going to sit there and have to sit on the sidelines while everybody else is doing it, and it's going to be a temptation for you. It's going to make you probably very frustrated. So we're just not going there. We're just not going to do that. So I think just boundaries of teaching them principles in God's word that we're not going to participate in a lot of these activities.
And
Um,
maintaining that over each generation is so fruitful because
yeah,
you could have easily been like, "Oh, well, you're young, you're the youngest one, go
yeah,
ahead."
oh
Like
yeah,
maintaining it, keeping that line, it gives affirmation to your youngest that, okay, this is definitely a principle. This is what we
right,
as a family stand for. And then your oldest, even Brooke, wouldn't have a doubt in her mind that over the years y'all have softened up or y'all have loosened up
yeah.
your boundaries. So that's
Well,
super.
and that goes back to something I said earlier, is that consistency
Mm,
is, that what we set as boundaries for Brooke, she's 10 years older than Dakota. They're still the same boundaries for Dakota. Um, that consistency, and what that does is that teaches kids, okay, there is value to this.
yeah.
It wasn't just let's just pick some rules out of the air that sound good. No, there is value
Yeah.
to having this boundary. And so when they have their own children and they're putting things in place, they can go back to that and say, my parents put some things in place, and maybe they have different boundaries than we have, but they're going to recognize the value of boundaries and being consistent through the years.
Yeah. So good. So in the interest of time, we're gonna wrap things up. I think I've got like five more questions for you, maybe four.
Okay.
Um, Share with us a piece of advice you received that made the biggest difference in your parenting journey. Sorry.
Okay. Whew. Best advice. I think the best thing that someone probably told me, and I think it was my mother-in-law that told me this, is that kids are resilient.
Back.
Because I would worry when things were hard and when I messed up, like, man, I've ruined my child. Like, they're going to hate me. They're going to shun me and put me in a nursing home when I'm older. Like I would have, one mistake and I'm like, that's it. I've ruined my child forever. Um, and she told me kids, one, are forgiving. And I've had to go to my kids before and ask for forgiveness. That's humbling. I don't enjoy that. So I try to do things right so I don't have to apologize so much because it's humbling. But your kids can handle it. Kids are tougher than what you might give them credit for, and they're very forgiving. And my girls have, when I've gone to them and humbled myself and said, I messed up, I shouldn't have said that, they've always been very forgiving. And it's teaching them a lesson as well. Like everything you do as a parent is a lesson. And it's teaching me a lesson, but it's also teaching them that no matter how old you get, you still need to be able to humble yourself and ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. That's
So
powerful.
that's probably, I don't know. I've had so many good things spoken into my life, but that would be one of them that I think stands out to me.
That is a powerful piece of advice because you as a parent, as a mom, can be so hard on yourself that you
Yeah.
don't realize, I can get strength from my kids. So if my
Mhm.
kids are resilient and yes, like I hear kids are resilient and I'm thinking, oh, okay, she falls from the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
She's
She'll be fine.
resilience is like they can learn lessons from you being humble enough to apologize to your kids and being vulnerable
Yeah.
Like that that's an incredible answer. Great job. Well, that's all we have this week. Be sure to tune in next week for more Words from Your Mama.